Greetings. This is Bradford Donald Keller Townsend, and this is a forward research report. I'm going to title this War, the Solution for Human Overpopulation and Natural Resource Scarcity. Now, everybody, um, there's a lot of people out there promoting having no children and people not having children as the solution to overpopulation, um, overconsumption, for scarcity. The human species, Homo sapiens sapiens, has been dealing with scarcity for billions of years, back when we were simple organisms, amino acids. Then were reptiles. We have reptilian uh, neurology. The deepest part of our brain is a reptilian brain. We have a photosensor that became the pineal gland, which is different than an eye. That's been covered up, but it's still embedded at the center of our brain. And we were once maybe a small creature, like a little squirrel or a mouse. I don't know how many hundreds of millions or billions of years ago in evolution. So I'm a Orthodox Jew by religion, and I practice it to my own conscience. And I'm also a radical naturalist in that the first big philosopher that had a big impact to me was a Jewish philosopher named Spinoza. He was Dutch, and I have Dutch ancestry. Um, he and I have the blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm 6'3" with my shoes on. Um, I fit. I could walk the streets of the Netherlands, and I have Dutch type features, or Frisian. It's that's human beings need the resistance. Like, I was a professional athlete. I was a top tier. My track team had the world record holder in my event, the quarter and the half mile. He was a Brazilian. Um, so you need to be a top athlete. You have to train and work out. You have to run your laps with everything you have in you, all your passion. Other athletes have to lift weights or practice doing flips and twists and running plays. Um, you need resistance to grow and to be healthy. And throughout all of nature, whether it be a hawk or a worm or a mouse, they're always competing for energy, and there's always scarcity, and it's never going to go away. And the mathematical, logical argument, and I don't need slides or graphs, is that if one tribe or group values procreation in large families, let's say the Orthodox Jewish community, and in Israel you can see this, where the Orthodox Jews might have 5, 6 children a family average or even higher, and the secular and non-religious Jews choose to have 1, 2, 0 children a couple. They will, in only a few generations, because of the compounding growth, they used to use the term geometric growth of the Orthodox community, they will go from being a small minority within Israel to the overwhelming majority, and it will be the secular small family or no children couples that become the tiny minority. They will be quickly swamped. So if you country, let's say it is the Netherlands or the United States or China or Iran, um, not, Congo decides that you're going to quit having children and try to have one, you don't, let's say the government doesn't force it by compelling and sterilizing people, but you shame and put social pressure on individuals that have a certain, more than two children, and ostracize them and don't give them job promotions and things. You can kind of subtly um, make it unacceptable, like homosexuality used to be unacceptable and a crime. But if you had too many children, kind of the same thing as homosexuality, and push those people to the fringes, it's been proven throughout the historical record that you go extinct. So if you're like the Phoenicians, the Philistines who sacrificed their children to Moloch and Baal, the sky god or the fertility god or whatever, and you limit your family size intentionally, then you are going to get swamped and wiped out. It only takes one ethnic group and one tribe that values procreation, and they'll start taking and expanding, because the same kind of people who do not want to have children are probably the same kind of people that aren't willing to fight for their country or for their tribe. And they don't have a legacy into the future. But the people that have lots of children, they see they have a future. So psychologically, they know that they and their people collectively need to gain control of natural resources. The first obvious one is water. Without water, in a matter of days, you die. You need land with good topsoil to grow food, so you can have your olive groves, your strawberry bushes, your potato fields. You need land to feed yourself, and you need fresh water to bathe and to drink.
Shush, I get it.
So we need to make war is the solution to human overpopulation and scarcity. That's you can say famine and war is what keeps humanity healthy and vigorous. So we're always in competition, with other creatures in nature for the natural resources. The trees want that field that we grow potatoes in, to have ash trees, oak trees, whatever kind of tree. Um, the the worms and the squirrels would rather have trees there. So we're all competing for land and resources with other organisms on the planet and with other collective groups on the planet. And we are collective creatures. We are like pack, pod, herd animals. Uh, I would say more like pack animals in our numbers, where we're kind of genetically, over the last tens of thousands of years, um, to be in groups of 50 to 200 people. That's what our brains, we can handle relationships with 200 people. Remember their individual traits and personalities and features. We don't have enough memory capacity in our heads to go much. They're exceptional people. Some can maybe only hold 50 people in their head, and some people can maybe hold 500, but the median number is around 200 is what psychologists have found out. So in real life, in the long term, you need to be in a tribe that collectively, just like you can't survive in the wilderness very well by yourself, it's better to be out with 5 or 10 other men if you're in a hunting party, so that someone can stand watch. If you're in the real wilderness where there's wolves and bears and and in a more tropical climate, poisonous snakes and things. Several poisonous snakes are attracted to the warmth of the fire and start slithering toward, your sleeping comrades. The person on duty can get up with a spear and flick the snakes away back into the jungle, or pick up a torch and if there's a big wolf or coyote pack, with 20, 30 animals coming on your hunting party, you can wave your torch at them and then send them back into the forest. So that's the reality. If you choose not to have children, if you choose to have small families and you promote that within your civilization, you're dooming your civilization to be conquered and run over by a culture and civilization that has high procreation as their goal. My distant cousin, former President Theodore Roosevelt, went around the country giving speeches about this. And back then he used the term Anglo-Saxon. It's kind of died out, but Anglo-Saxon civilization. He said, Anglo-Saxons, we need to. He specifically targeted women's groups and told them they needed to fill their backyards with children playing, because if they didn't, other civilizations, or you can call them races, ethnic groups, whatever, they that value procreation in large families will come and over time take your land and your resources away. And that's just what the historical record. That's what's happening in the United States. The Anglo-Saxon Dutch people, Germanic peoples that first came here 400 years ago, with their birth rates declining, other groups are coming in and filling the spaces instead of them. From Asia, from South America. If we were having larger families here of the European colonial population in like the French in Quebec, or the English, the British Isles people, Irish, English, Scottish peoples of New England, if they kept high procreation. So even within your own population, you should always have a marginal population that's living in extreme poverty and even starving to death. Now that sounds harsh, but that's what drives you when you see your starving people of your own tribe because you can't feed them. Then that drives you to form an army and go invade and conquer other areas and expand. Because if you're not growing and expanding and getting more quality farmland and water and other natural resources that you need, then you're losing ground. There's no like stasis of equilibrium where everybody's going to stay. I mean, if you look at the little country, the Netherlands, soon less they're like the Dutch might even be a minority in their own country, because a small population with a high birth rate moves in and displaces them on their own land. And conflict over resources is just the reality of living organisms, whether they be bacterium or worms, nematodes, eagles, any type of raptor. It doesn't. We're all competing for survival, and that's the raison d'être. It should be. That's the first commandment in the Bible, is to be fruitful and multiply. And our raison d'etre should be for your tribe to be fruitful and multiply. And conversely, to keep your enemies having abortions, using birth control, and convincing them with your psychological warfare not to have children. So you want your enemies not to have babies, and you want your own people to have as many babies as they can. That's the long-term strategy. That's part of, Gaddafi was quoted as saying something similar, that we Muslims, we don't have to conquer you by military force because you've chosen not to reproduce yourselves. We can, Germany and England and all those countries will just, Poland, since you don't have the willpower to have babies, then we'll have lots of babies. And then because if you don't have the willpower to have babies, then you're not going to defend your territory, and we'll just gradually just walk right in without any fighting, and then gradually displace you from the land through migration by having a higher birth rate. I think that's enough. I think I've made my point. This wasn't a very cheerful video, but we need to stick to the truth, and this is the truth. Bradford will give you the truth. Thank you very much, and have a great day.